Hi there, I'm Elaine Cochran with Papa TV in Port Angeles, Washington, and welcome to our new series On the Road, where we'll be exploring unique locations across the North Olympic Peninsula. Today, we have ventured out to the new Dungeness Light Station at the end of the Dungeness Spit, which is one of the world's longest natural sand spits. The spit and the lighthouse are both a part of the 775-acre Dungeness National Wildlife Refuge. So we invite you to join us as we explore the oldest functioning lighthouse on the Strait of Juan De Fuca, along with the new Dungeness Light Station Association. Stick around to find out how you can spend a week as a lighthouse keeper, maintaining the property and conducting tours, as well as enjoying the serenity, wildlife, and natural beauty of the Dungeness Spit and Refuge, all of which are just a short trip from Sequim, Washington on the North Olympic Peninsula.
In other locations around the United States, when the Coast Guard personnel left, vandalism occurred. This small group of local people decided that they wanted to prevent that from happening. So they coordinated with the Coast Guard and they started the New Dungeness Light Station Association.
The New Dungeness Light Station Association, an independent nonprofit organization, assumed responsibility for the lighthouse in late 1994 under a license with the U.S. Coast Guard. The light station is continuously staffed 24 hours a day by association members who serve on a weekly basis as volunteer keepers at their own expense. These volunteers reside right here in the restored 1904 Keeper's House. The lighthouse is operated, maintained, and improved effectively through membership dues, keeper's fees, and individual contributions at no cost to taxpayers.
To be a keeper out at the New Dungeness Lighthouse, first you need to be a member of the association. As a keeper, you stay out at the lighthouse for 1 week at a time. Sometimes it's 7 days, sometimes it's 6 days, depending on the tide cycle. And when you're out there for the week, you end up doing some basic maintenance tasks at the station. You stay in the keeper's quarters, which was built in 1903 and 1904. And it has 3 bedrooms that we normally rent out. There's also an extra bedroom in the basement for children or non-married adults, or it's basically an extra room for people to stay in.
Well, the keeper's quarters are very well maintained. Obviously, there are people who care about this, not just in terms of kind of keeping the furniture up to date and stuff, but actually decorating, it in a style that reminds you of kind of the early years of the 20th century.
So the transportation out to the lighthouse is somewhat unique because it's all based on the tides. Some weeks going out to the lighthouse is at 5 p.m. on a Friday. Other times it's at 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning. We try to have it either a Friday or a Saturday, but again, it's all based on when the low tides are.
But I do notice that the minute we get out of the vehicles and get our stuff out and up, unloaded into the house, it's just like this sense of peacefulness settles on you, and you just change your pace because it's going to be a different kind of experience.
But out here,
It's
the
so
quiet is just absolutely amazing.
Great for sleeping.
If you're looking for a really beautiful place that's quiet and where you can just relax and get away from everything, this is a good place to come.
One of my favorite things about the lighthouse is that I feel like it's our lighthouse. That light station is maintained by all of our members. Yes, I'm involved, but my board is involved, and my regular volunteers are involved, and the keepers are involved. It's maintained, it exists, because people are passionate about helping to maintain that lighthouse.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed your time at the lighthouse and learning a little bit more about the new Dungeness Light Station Association. Join us next time on the Road. We'll see you then. Bye. Hi there, I'm Elaine Cochran with Papa TV in Port Angeles, Washington, and welcome back to another episode in our series On the Road. Right now, I'm standing in front of the Dance Plaza Totem here at the Jamestown Sklalams Tribal Campus in Blinn, Washington. This spot is the start of the North Olympic Discovery Marathon. Today, we're going to be exploring more of the North Olympic Peninsula's Olympic Discovery Trail. We're going to be following Dave LaSorsa. Dave is all ready to go and is starting his ride westward toward Port Angeles, which will be our ultimate destination. Let's learn a little bit more about the history of the Olympic Discovery Trail and the work of the Peninsula Trails Coalition.
In approximately 1985, trucking had really taken over and pretty much put the railroads out of business. In 1985, we see the railroad.
Let me see how it's going. 1, 2, 3,
The
4,
group
5,
that
6,
had
7,
been
8,
used to
9,
bicycling
10,
on the roads there.
11, 12,
developed first
13,
idea.
14, 15. You okay with that, Jordan? Okay, is this the program that we're going to be?
Totems are all hand carved out of old growth cedar logs. So as you continue your journey on the Olympic Discovery Trail, enjoy the beauty.
Hello
and
again
natural
from
wonders of the North
downtown,
Olympic.
sunny downtown Port Angeles for more of It's Your Turn. I'm your host, Dale Wilson. This is a new program we have inaugurated. We are broadcasting live from sunny downtown Port Angeles. And this program, It's Your Turn, is an opportunity for you to come down and share with us anything that's on your mind about any subject that comes to mind. And we will get it out to at least 16,500 homes here in Clallam County, plus those people that can see from around the world at www.papaonline.tv. Careful there, don't do .com, but it's papaonline.tv. And we are broadcasting around the world via the magic of the internet, and right here at home on Papa TV, channel 21 on your wave cable lineup. We are pleased to have with us our first interview today. This is my friend Andy Sharp. Andy is a fascinating guy whom I met about 10 years ago when he was making his first bicycle trek across America. He's from England, and in just a moment he'll tell you what town in England and a little bit about his hometown. But what impressed me most about Andy is the fact that he would have the nerve to get on a bicycle and ride across America, which he accomplished in 2008, and again attempted to do so this year before some mechanical problems forced a untimely end to his trip. Well, not an end, but an abbreviated part of his trip. So Andy, tell us a little bit about your first sojourn. Well, first of all, tell us about your hometown in England.
Yeah, I live about 20 miles north of Stonehenge and about 80 to 90 miles west of London, so you can coordinate that. It's a very small village in Wiltshire. There's only about maybe 300 people live in it. A place called Patney, P-A-T-N-E-Y, if you want to look it up on the map.
Okay. And I think you also told me it is so small they don't even have their own pub.
We don't have anything on our place except houses, and that's it, and fields.
For some reason, of course, I've never been to England, but I would have thought that every wide spot in the road would have a pub.
Not quite, no. No, we're not that drunk.
Well, I wasn't suggesting that, just that, of course, I guess the only thing I know about England is having grown up on Andy Capp comics.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so he was always close to a pint somewhere.
Yeah.
From Patney, I suppose you took you rode your bicycle to Heathrow Airport, I would suppose?
Yeah, for this year, I rode to Heathrow Airport, obviously jumped on the plane. Arrived at Boston on the 2nd of April this year, and then spent a few days in Boston. Another mechanical failure in Boston which I had to sort out before I even got anywhere, and then headed south towards Richmond and Yorktown.
Richmond, Virginia, and
Yeah,
Yorktown,
that's Virginia.
Virginia, okay.
Yeah.
Now, you might as well let the people know you have a bit of a fascination or appreciation for military battle sites.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
So I got into the American Civil War probably about 10 years ago, just as an accident really. I saw a really good documentary on TV. I started reading about it and I just got hooked on it. So when I decided to do my first bicycle trip back in 2010, I thought it'd be an excellent opportunity to combine the cycling with going around some of the most well-known battlefields. So obviously Gettysburg, Antietam, Fredericksburg, all those ones like Chancellorsville as well. Go around and have a look at them firsthand and see what the books were actually describing.
Right.
And I found it absolutely fascinating and riveting. And it's just basically just sparked it all over again. I've gone out and bought loads more books and seen loads more documentaries and stuff like that.
Now we should also mention that you are a veteran of Her Majesty's Navy, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. I was in the Royal Navy for 7 years. Yeah.
And I understand that you were in charge of the armory for a while?
Yeah, I've had sort of dealings with electrical equipment, aircraft electrics, things like guns, rifles, pistols, all that sort of stuff, anything to do with sort of hand arms.
What are the laws in England now about private ownership of weapons?
They've got very strict because we've had some pretty horrendous massacres in the UK. The most infamous one was in Scotland a few years ago at Dunblane, where a whole classroom of young infant kids was slaughtered by a complete nut job. So all the gun laws in the UK were tightened up considerably. Obviously you have to be security cleared now to have any sort of firearm. Handguns are banned completely. You're not allowed to have a handgun at all.
So nobody can have one even around their home?
Absolutely not, no. Absolutely not. And you are checked on a regular basis by the police that you are storing your handgun in a secure location, preferably hidden. You have security checks to make sure that you're not a bad guy, you're not a crook or anything like that, so it's pretty damn strict.
Now the police will come by announced or unannounced to check on the whereabouts of your weapon?
I think they have to come announced because obviously if they turn up, nobody may be there. So they come through unannounced.
And you may or may not be aware that America has very different gun laws that almost any 18-year-old can go in and buy an assault rifle, and I don't know of any requirements that they be hidden or secured. Maybe some local places have their own laws, but compared to what you just described, we are very lax, and I think it shows too in some of the horrible shootings that we've experienced here.
We've seen the coverage over in the UK of some of these ridiculous school shootings and stuff like that.
Well, a horrible statistic has come into the mindset recently, and that is that during the year of 2018, more students have been killed in their classroom than our soldiers have on the various battlefields around the world.
Yeah, I guess in a way that makes sense. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, anyway, let's get on to something more pleasant. So you well, let's talk about your first successful bicycle ride across America back in 2008, and that's where, of course, we met. We were members, my wife and I were members of Couchsurfing, and this is if you don't know, it's an organization where people who have room or extra room or have a couch that they will share with travelers are welcome to list them, and travelers are welcome to call, and if there is an availability, come and stay with you for the night, all free of charge. So that's how we met you, and we were in Arizona at the time. So tell us about your trip from you got in Boston the first time too?
Yeah, Boston again.
So tell us about your trip from Boston to Arizona where we first ran into you.
So that again started in mid-April, arrived at Boston, had 3 days there to just go and explore all the sites in Boston. Obviously the military stuff for the Independence War caught my eye, so I did a lot of looking around for that.
Did you see the old church house where the lights were supposed to have been lit, one if by land and two if by sea?
Saw all the touristy stuff, yeah, did that. Done the trail and all the rest of it, went up Bunker Hill. Visited the naval history stuff in the harbour there. That's the second time I've done that. Again, it's really fascinating for me. From Boston, it was then heading more or less south-southwest again, visiting various points of interest along the way. So trying to think where I went from Boston. I think it was down towards Antietam, Gettysburg, Washington, Annapolis Naval Museum, down again towards Richmond. I had a few days in Richmond to go around the Civil War stuff there. By the time I got to Richmond, I was starting to run out of time because I needed to get down to Charleston in Georgia by around about mid-April, beginning of well, sort of not mid-April, mid-May, beginning of June. So I was running out of time. I wanted to get to Petersburg because that was the last big battlefield that I wanted to see on the East Coast. So once I finished at Petersfield, I cheated and jumped on the Amtrak and got down to Charleston.
We won't tell anyone.
No, of course don't do that. I managed to book into a really Grottsville hotel in Charleston. It was pretty rubbish. I booked in, I was there for 3 nights, so I stuck it. Charleston, it was to see the USS Yorktown and a few other ships there. From Charleston, it was over to Andersonville, the infamous Civil War prison camp. A couple of nights there to go around that. From Charleston, it was to a pretty unknown museum in Columbia, which is on the Georgia-Alabama border.
Okay.
It's the US Civil War Naval Museum, which is quite strange because it's
inland. Yes.
Inland. But obviously once you go in and have a look, it all makes sense because most of it is riverine type warfare rather than open ocean warfare. So that was an excellent venue to get to that. When I got to Charleston, I discovered warm showers and couch surfing at Charleston. So from there I went to Montgomery, stayed with my first warm showers host at Montgomery.
Well, first of all, Charleston is a beautiful old southern city.
It is. That's why I had 3 nights there to go around. It's a gorgeous place.
And it was in May when you were there?
Yeah, it was beginning
When is the Spolito Festival?
I don't know.
You weren't there during that time, okay, but I know that's fabulous for that area.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
So from Civil War Museum, it was to Alabama, into Montgomery. Stayed with my first warm showers host there. From Montgomery.
Warm showers is another type of couch surfing place where people will share.
It's exactly the same as couch surfing, but it's purely for cyclists, for touring cyclists.
Oh, okay, just for bicyclists.
Yeah,
Okay.
no one else, just for cyclists. And there again, there are not just nationwide in the States, they're worldwide, just like couch surfing is.
Okay.
And you just ping someone a bit further down the line, give them notice that you might be able to stay or can you stay, and if they can, then you drop in there. And they're usually extremely generous people, very nice people, absolutely fantastic. You know, they give you stuff. I mean, I've stayed at so many now, and I've picked up books, cycling gear, a camelback, which is a sort of water container when you go through the desert. Because one of my hosts said, well, if you're going through deserts, you're going to need one of these. So he gave me a camelback, so I didn't get thirsty. And these people are very, very generous, very, very helpful. I mean, you just cannot fault them. They are a credit to humanity, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we like to think most of our American neighbors are that way.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, they're marvellous. People I've met here have been marvellous.
Did you have any difficult issues with people while you were traveling?
No, there's only one that stood out, and that was when I made the mistake of asking about a Greyhound bus in Las Cruces. And I should have perhaps thought twice about asking him, because he got really humpy about it. He thought I was demeaning him because he inferred, or I inferred apparently, that he was just a counter warrior behind the desk. So he got a bit snotty about that, but I just said sorry. Didn't realise.
Well, some people can get touchy for just
the sort of guy that might have had a gun behind his back, you know.
Well, in Las Cruces, New Mexico, that's very likely, I would suppose. So you got on over into Arizona, and what route did you take across Arizona? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was on Route 800 or 810. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's a very long straight road, pretty much all the way from the Mississippi right the way through to New Mexico. Then it does a bit of wobbling around and goes into Arizona. But that was, I think, probably my favourite part of the whole trip, was that bit from Mississippi right through to Arizona. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, that is all beautiful country there, I agree, and I've traveled it a few times, and you never ever get bored driving through that part of the country. So you got to Arizona, and let me fill the folks in for a little bit. At the time, as you recall, Wendy and I were working on a couple of projects, remodeling projects there in Yarnell, Arizona. And Yarnell is at the very top of what they call the 9 Mile Hill. And that's where the Mogollon Rim has been upthrust over historic time, geologic time, and is about 5,000 feet higher than the desert floor. And when you were on your way in, I think it was before you had actually seen 9 Mile Hill, you were saying, "Oh no, I can climb it, I can climb it, I can climb it." And I said, "Well, you know, just take a look at it, and if you think better of it, I'll come pick you up." And so about 30 minutes later, I got a call, and I think by then you had seen the hill, right?
Yeah, so I thought second about it. Just come and pick me up. I'm quite happy to do that.
And that would be a great hill to go down on a bicycle, but not to come up. And I hope that while you're here, you're going to take in the Hurricane Ridge Hill. Have you done that yet?
I tried getting up there the other day, but there's some big roadworks up there just before you get to the ranger station where you have to pay, and the health and safety police wouldn't let me go up there at my own pace. I had to walk behind the pilot car that escorts people up. So I had to walk behind that, and behind me would have been all the rest of the traffic. So rather than subject all the rest of the traffic to something like a 20-minute to half an hour walk,
right,
I just turned around and came back. I'll go do that another day, but I want to try and do it before I leave.
You're a very thoughtful fellow. Thank you for doing that. I wasn't in that line, but I'm glad I wasn't.
Yeah.
So you have been here in Port Angeles for a week or so now. Tell us your impressions of Port Angeles.
Yeah, it's very sort of quaintish sort of town, isn't it? It's a mix between the modern and the old. Quite where you place it, I don't know, because you've got a lot of building which reminds me of the Old West, and you've got a lot of obviously this sort of strip mall stuff. Obviously the port over the road there, that's obviously thriving because of the timber. I find that quite interesting, just watching all the stuff that's going backwards and forwards there. And obviously surrounding it, you've got that lovely scenery at the back there, that huge mountain.
And the snow-covered mountains behind you.
That's marvellous, that is.
You know, it is such a magical place here to have the Juan De Fuca Strait here at our front door, and these beautiful, majestic, Olympic snow-capped mountains at our back door. And anywhere you look, you're going to get a fabulous view.
Yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. It'd be nice to have that at the back of my house.
Is your area in Patney, is it mountainous?
It's not mountainous, but we are in the UK there are areas which are called areas of outstanding natural beauty, which are more protected than normal areas are. I live in one of these AONBs, and the valley that I live in, or the vale that I live in, surrounded on one side by Pewsey Downs, which is quite high. It's about 300 or 400 feet high. That's got snow in the winter if it's cold enough.
Wow.
And then on the southern side we've got Salisbury Plain, where they do a lot of the military exercises. That's around about the same height as well. There's usually snow up there when it's cold. Go up the top of those two areas and you can look down on the vale. You get really nice views out from the top of that. A day like today, it would be beautiful up there. Absolutely beautiful.
Now, I think that you told me that you had several years' experience working in the IT industry and have more recently gone into remodeling and that sort of thing. So now that seems like a big jump, at least intellectually, from because the IT people I know are, well, you know, politely we call them nerds, and I think that's a term that they don't mind being called, but I've never seen a remodeling contractor that I would think of as a nerd. So tell me how you cross those two bridges.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with being called a nerd. I'm quite proud of that term. Yeah, basically I was in IT since I left the Navy, so that would be from about 1986 right through to 2008 when we had.
Do they have computers that far back? I'm
just
kidding,
about, yeah, they were. The big things, you know.
Yeah, about the size of a refrigerator.
Yeah, with about 1K memory in it, that sort of stuff. So we had the credit crunch in 2008. My last contract terminated early because of that. I didn't really want to go back to work before I came here in 2010, so I had a year off. When I came back from my trip in 2010, started looking around for work. We had that recession, we had the impact of outsourcing to India. To cut a long story short, all the stuff I used to do back in 2008, pretty well half of it to 75% of it was irrelevant. The technology had moved on, and it's getting very difficult to find a job.
Weren't you willing to work for 57 cents an hour like they will in India?
No, I don't think so. I got a mortgage to pay.
Well, when people start talking about globalism, that's what they mean, is that we're in competition with people that are willing to work for $1 an hour.
Absolutely.
And that's why so many of our jobs have been shipped offshore. With the also added fact that our Congress passed laws that made it financially advisable and advantageous to ship jobs offshore.
Yeah. In the UK, it's more or less left to the individual commercial organisations to do what they like. It's a globalisation which you really can't stop. If there's someone else in a third world country which is prepared to do that job, and they're going to undercut someone in the first world quite substantially, then companies where they can, they will move their work away. It's as simple as that.
Well, I think that's exactly what has happened and is happening here in the U.S. And I think our challenge now is to create good family wage jobs that cannot be offshore.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of stuff which has to stay in a country because you physically can't do it.
Right, I don't think there's going to be any robots come and change out your toilet. I don't think there's going to be any robots come and put a roof on your house.
But the way technology is going, you never know.
That's probably true too, yes.
The biggest new trend now in IT is artificial intelligence. If you can get driverless cars on the road, that's just the start of it.
Have you seen this article that's been much in the print lately about the fact that Google is allowing law enforcement to use their facial recognition software?
I did read about that the other day. I haven't seen the whole story about it, but it seems a bit sinister and over the top to me. I don't like this big brother attitude that a lot of these government organisations have. I rail against it.
Would you add to that I'm sure you've got these in England too, the auto license plate readers, so that...
Absolutely, we got that all over the place in the UK. The UK is one of the worst offenders for CCTV all over the place.
Well, I was going to say, I read somewhere where London has more television security surveillance cameras than any other city per capita.
Yeah, that's probably right.
And how do they get by with any hooliganism at all then?
I have to wonder sometimes, because they seem to, the police seem to let the ordinary criminal perpetrators go. Whether they could be bothered catching them or not, I don't know, but there are a huge number of CCTV cameras in London, absolutely huge. They're all over the place.
Is it still true that bobbies do not carry weapons?
Absolutely, yeah. There is a special group within the police which are allowed to carry firearms and use firearms. There are strict rules and regulations about when they can use them. Generally, I think that's a good idea. I don't believe that all police should carry weapons, because I think you'll get to a situation like you got in America, where they're just free and easy with it and they'll just shoot people out of hand, which of course you've had several instances of that recently.
Are the bobbies allowed to carry tasers?
Yeah, everybody can take a taser, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure, because I've never had either one. I've never been shot and I've never been tased, but I think I'd rather be shot. A taser seems like it's pretty...
it's pretty horrible.
Pretty debilitating. What other kind of impressions have you gotten of these states in your various journeys here? What would you go back, if you were tipping a pint in one of your favorite pubs, what would you be telling your mates there about the U.S.?
I'd say it was a very easy country to go around. The people are extremely friendly, very generous, very open. There's a lot of history in America. A lot of history, I think, which Americans don't realise they've got, or perhaps aren't interested in seeing. They never seem to be able to go around and actually visit it, because they're always working, of course, all the time. So there's loads of history here. If you want to go and find history, there's loads of history. There's obviously a lot of geological stuff to go and see, places like the Grand Canyon, Rockies, Big Sur on the west coast, all that sort of stuff.
You may be surprised to know that here in Clallam County there are 45 different sites that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Yeah.
Have you seen them all yet?
I haven't. I didn't even know there was one here, I have to admit.
Well, now we're actually the Peninsula Area Public Access, Papa TV, through a generous grant from the Clallam County Commissioners, has actually done documentaries on 3 of these in the last year. So that's going to be a goal, that we would have all of them that are at least photogenic, if that's a good word. The ones that look like they would lend themselves to a good documentary, we're going to try to provide that, because I think you probably know, and you're probably the best example, there are a lot of people who do travel based on historic significance of the areas that they're traveling.
Absolutely right, yeah.
My history teacher, when I was in high school, every summer he would load the family up, and for 1 month of the summer they would drive around in his station wagon seeing all the historic sites that they could possibly cram into 30 days on the road.
Great way to do a holiday.
I agree. Now, he had 5 kids and his wife in one little car, so I don't know how much fun that would be, but they really had a good time on the road.
Yeah.
Well, anything else that you would take back, anything that you found in the U.S. that you could take back to the U.K. if you could? Either ideas or appliances, or...
I think some of your fast food, believe it or not.
Fast food, okay, good. Which one do you like?
Okay, Golden Corral is pretty good.
Okay.
And the Chinese buffets are pretty good. All you can eat.
Have you tried the Asian buffet here in Port Angeles yet?
I haven't, no.
It is excellent.
I haven't tried that one. But if I can get into a Golden Corral or a Chinese buffet, or even an Indian buffet, I've done one of those at, where was that, in Yorktown I think it was. And you can just stuff your face. I mean, it's brilliant. We haven't quite cottoned onto that one.
Well, when they say all you can eat, I take that as a personal challenge.
Yeah, well, I've done 3 times now. I went round to the Golden Corral and I've managed to get around 3 times with a plate piled high.
And did you take a nap shortly thereafter?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So you're going to be here until June 1st, I think, and then you'll go back to Patney, and I'm assuming you'll fly back to Heathrow and then bicycle back to
That's the plan at the moment, yeah.
And what will you do when you get back home? Start back to your remodeling?
I should probably have a detox period for a week.
Oh, and in fact, you told me the other day that you had come to really appreciate some of the lager or pale ale beers here. Have you picked out a favorite?
Yeah, the craft ales here are absolutely excellent. You've got a particular style here which is extremely hoppy. That's now catching on in the UK. There are quite a few local brewers in the UK now which do these very, very hoppy ales which originated here. So I'm an avid home brewer myself, so I've started copying the style as well. I can do a pretty good facsimile of a USA hoppy beer too.
Did you know that Washington State grows an enormous amount of hops, and it may be a goodly portion of all grown in the U.S.?
Yeah, I do. I'm familiar with quite a few of the hops that are grown over here, like Chinook, for example. We get all those over in the UK in the homebrew shops as well.
Great. Well, Andy, it's been a pleasure to sit here and talk to you and share your enthusiasm with the people here in Port Angeles. And I want you to not wait 10 years before you make it back again.
I will try to.
And you don't have to come on a bicycle. We have excellent trains and boats and planes, so you can...
Come on a bike.
Andy, great to see you, and great to have you on the guest today.
Thank you very much.
And that's enough for right now. We're going to go back to the studio, let you watch a little bit of the Discovery Trail as we take a break, and we'll be right back in 5, 4, 3, 2. That's
one of the first things you may see as you enter the tribal campus is our beautiful totem poles that decorate the campus. The totems are all hand carved out of old growth cedar logs. So as you continue your journey on the Olympic Discovery Trail, do enjoy the beauty, the natural wonders of the North Olympic Peninsula.
The completed Johnson Creek Trestle project resulted in a very enjoyable experience for bicyclers and hikers that are using the trail. They're basically cruising through the environment in the top of the tree canopies, and it just provides a very unique experience for a bicyclist enjoying the Olympic Discovery Trail.
Dave is now entering the city of Sequim.
Hello, welcome to Sequim. My name's David Garlington. I'm the Public Works Director in the city, and we're here on a beautiful summer day in Carrie Blake Park. You're just a couple of blocks from the main downtown center. So if you're on the ODT and you're coming into Sequim, make a little detour, go downtown, enjoy some of what we have to offer here. It's a beautiful place, and we look forward to seeing you.
As we leave the Bagley Creek Ravine heading westward, and that brings us to the Deer Park trailhead.
A long, gentle westward descent down into the Morse Creek Valley, a really impressive ramp that we had to design to get up onto the trestle, a very scenic location, being able to view some of Morse Creek, the gateway to the final mileage into Port Angeles itself.
We're here at the City Pier near Hollywood Beach, where Dave is approaching the end of his ride. This spot is the finish of the North Olympic Discovery Marathon. Every year in early June, thousands of visitors come to this popular event. Dave has come to the end of his journey, and so have we. Thank you so much, Dave, for the great ride, and we wish you the best of luck at the World Championship. Until next time, I'm Elaine Cochran with Papa TV in Port Angeles, Washington. We'll see you soon for our next adventure. Bye now. I'm Elaine Cochran with Papa TV in Port Angeles, Washington. Today, we're going to be exploring the fall season on the North Olympic Peninsula, specifically Lake Crescent and Lake Crescent Lodge, along with the Sol Duck River Valley, all of which lie within the boundaries of the Olympic National Park. The fall time offers a different kind of environment, with cooler weather and a less crowded, slower-paced experience. We start our journey here in Port Angeles. From Port Angeles, we travel west along Highway 101 to the Storm King Ranger Station on Lake Crescent. Behind me is the 1905 Storm King Ranger Station. From this point, you can access the 1-mile hike to Merrimer Falls or the boat ramp, which will take you straight into Lake Crescent. It was the scenic beauty and the abundance of soon-to-become famous Beardsley trout that early settlers soon recognized as Lake Crescent's greatest resources. We've made it to Lake Crescent Lodge. Here, there is no shortage of beauty and history.
Oh, the fall is the most beautiful time here at Lake Crescent Lodge. The trees and the maples are bright oranges, bright yellows, and bright reds, and a mix of that together is breathtaking.
So here in Olympic National Park, there are wonderful hikes that abound from this area. Short hikes to Merrimer Falls, a steeper hike to Storm King and have a wonderful view of the lake and across to the Straits of Juan De Fuca. Fall time is a time to rejuvenate, so you have those wonderful memories to take home and share with your family and friends.
So please come out this fall to Lake Crescent Lodge. It's beautiful. Let us entertain you, wine and dine you, and treat you over the top.
Lake Crescent is a remarkable lake in that it is very beautiful and very accessible.
2, 1. And we're back again from sunny downtown Port Angeles. I'm Dale Wilson, your host for It's Your Turn. It is a interview show where people can come and sit down and talk about anything on their mind, from the weather to gardening to what a beautiful day it is, and how great this year's Juan De Fuca Festival is. Our guest right now to take her turn is Celinda Barkhouse. Celinda is the former county treasurer for Clallam County, and she's someone who's been in charge of over $100 million of your money. So Celinda, hello and welcome, and thank you for coming.
Well, thank you.
Tell us what you're doing on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend.
Well, besides talking to you, I will be doing some gardening today, catching up with a lot of chores there, weeding and watering and planting.
Now, I know that you claim you're not a master gardener, but you have been featured in several articles on gardening. How does that come about?
Yes, well, I've done a number of presentations to the Master Gardener's Brown Bag Lunch series. They list me as a local gardener. I've never been able to find the time to go through the Master Gardener training, although I would have liked to have done that. But I've really enjoyed giving presentations on anything from gardening with ducks to growing your own spaghetti sauce. and the likes of that.
Now wait a minute, those are two intriguing ideas. The gardening with ducks and growing your own
Spaghetti sauce, basically the ingredients for spaghetti sauce.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, so like, garlic and onions, tomatoes, peppers.
And you grow all of those?
I grow all of those.
Right here at your home in downtown
Right,
Port Angeles.
right in, yes, here in central Port Angeles. I just live a few blocks from here.
Right.
And
tell us about gardening with ducks.
Well, I've got 4 ducks, and ducks are actually wonderful gardening companions because they eat slugs.
They eat slugs?
They eat slugs.
Oh,
That's
my
their
goodness.
favorite.
And do you then eat the eggs after they eat the slugs?
Yes, and they're very good egg layers. So it is an amazing thing to me that slugs go in and eggs come out.
Is there any difference in the taste of baked goods when you use duck eggs as opposed to hen eggs?
I've been using duck eggs for so long now that I'm not really sure. I hear people say duck eggs are a little bit more intense, but I think the flavor is very similar. But
I've never been able to warm up to duck eggs. They're just a little bit stronger than I'm used to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've eaten them and I like them, but I wouldn't choose them particularly.
Really? Well, I really like them. They're, that's all the eggs I eat now, and I eat quite a bit of them, come from my 4 ducks.
Now, I'm assuming with 4 ducks, you have to keep the fence pretty well to keep the varmints out. Have you had any experience with varmints taking ducks?
Yes. Raccoons. Actually everything likes ducks. From bald eagles flying overhead, Cooper's hog flying through the garden. Raccoons have gotten, unfortunately, a couple of my ducks, which I've really increased the, I call it duck hab. They go in at night. It's just built like a bunker to keep the raccoons at bay. So.
And you've only lost 2 ducks in these years?
I've lost 2 ducks, and that's been a while. I've had these 4 ducks now. I keep a very close eye out on them. They're only out in the yard when I'm there.
Now, do they sit eggs and hatch ducklings?
No, actually, this variety of ducks, which is called khaki Campbell, they are known for being the most productive egg layers, but also for not sitting on their eggs. So if you want to propagate them, you've got to use a brooder.
And have you ever tried to what is it called, candle or kindle?
I only have girl ducks, so they're not fertile eggs.
Great. When you set about to do your gardening, do you decide well ahead of time what you're going to have each year, or do you just decide kind of at the last moment and what seeds you have on hand?
No, I've been gardening for the last 20 years now, and I've learned what works for me here in downtown Port Angeles and what doesn't work and what I like and what's worthwhile growing or not worth the trouble. So I've got my list of what I grow. I grow a lot of fruit, actually.
Oh, okay.
A lot of fruit, a lot of salad. Broccoli is you can grow that year round.
So when you get home from work in the afternoon, you just grab a salad on your way into the house and go in and fix it up?
Yep.
That's great.
Get some hard-boiled duck eggs, and that's a full meal.
That's great. Well, tell me what else you're doing with your spare time now that you are not having to go to the Treasury every day. We're talking about just fun and hopefully some hobbies that you have.
Well, I ride my bike a lot.
Okay.
And I do a lot of yoga.
Did you ride your bicycle down here today?
No, I walk.
Okay. And again, you live just a few blocks away.
I just live only a few blocks away, which I really enjoy because you can walk to the waterfront, you can walk everywhere.
When's the last time you took a trip to Victoria?
Way too long ago.
Yeah, I agree. It's a beautiful city over there.
The last time I went there, I got seasick, so that's sort of a discouragement.
Was it that much of a rocking boat?
No, it wasn't, which is what was upsetting about it, because it wasn't a particularly windy day, and I'd never gotten seasick before, so it's a...
I'm sure you have visited the Bushart Gardens over there?
Oh, yes, I've visited the Bushart Gardens.
I have not. I've only seen the brochures. Tell us about Bushart Gardens.
It's a lot of very beautiful flowers, and it's a beautiful place. Yes.
They have a butterfly
yes, they have a butterfly
collection.
Collection, yeah. It's very, very beautiful.
And if I remember correctly, that was built in an old quarry site. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay, well, if that's the case, they certainly have beautified what I can only imagine was a very ugly quarry that turned it into the Bushart Gardens.
Yeah, for sure.
And the last time that you were there, you said that you got seasick on the way going or coming?
On the way going.
Okay, so that kind of ruined the trip while you were over there too?
Well, yeah, it does.
And did it make you want to fly back?
It's an option.
I wonder if they do have that. I guess out at Wright Brothers you can catch a plane and just fly over
You
to.
can probably.
Yeah.
But you know, there are so many wonderful things to do right here on this side of the border. So,
Agreed.
you know.
Agreed. Have you been up to Hurricane Ridge this year?
Not yet this year, no. But I will definitely go to catch the wildflowers, which are best in July.
Well, here's what I think would be fun was to have somebody carry me on my bicycle up to the top and then freewheel down.
Yeah.
Although it would probably be a little hairy if your brakes failed, but other than that, I think it'd be a lot of fun because there is some fabulous views coming back down the mountain there.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever seen a bear up there?
Yes.
Grown bear or baby bear? Or?
Oh no, grown bear.
The very first time I went up Hurricane Ridge, we saw a baby bear on the side of the road. I thought somebody planted that there for tourists.
The most bears I saw was going up the High Divide Trail, and we bended a corner, and it was a blueberry patch, and there were like a number of bears, and they were on both sides of the trail. And I was with a friend from the Netherlands, and he had told me if we see a bear we turn around, and you know, he was in front of me, he saw the bear, he turned around, and I'm like, well, wait a minute here, you know, that's we're not ready to go down. And so I thought about it, because there was a bear on one side of the trail and a bear on the other side, but they were eating blueberries. They were completely not interested in me, and I remembered what I had heard, which is you bang your pots and pans to keep the bears, you know, they just need warning that you're there.
They don't want to be startled.
So we didn't have pots and pans, we were on a day hike, but it says, well, let's start clapping, and we clapped, and the bears just moved a little bit further from the trail, didn't even look up, and he basically clapped us all the way to the top. But we saw a lot of bears that day.
Well, the black bears are not that dangerous, I understand, but brown and grizzlies?
Well, you know, we went to the top of the High Divide. We were going to eat our lunch. It was just a banana and some fruit bars. But there was this red sign. After I'd convinced my friend that black bears weren't dangerous and aggressive, there was a little poster up there, a little red notice that said, "Be aware, aggressive bear." And we could see one on the other side. It's all gravelly going down the High Divide there, and you could see a bear there at the bottom who was trying very hard to go all the way up. So we're like, you know, maybe we should turn around. And so we basically hiked out a mile before we stopped for our lunch.
Well, I've heard that black bears can be intimidated very quickly, and the best thing to do if confronted by a bear whom you have startled is to just stand there and try to make yourself look as big as you possibly can and make all the noise that you can. But you know what? That takes a lot of nerve.
It takes a lot of nerve. It's the same with cougars, they say. But of course, that incident a little while ago, these two guys who encountered a cougar did that, and it didn't quite work.
Well, actually,
that was an emaciated cougar, though. I understand he was.
Actually, what happened in that case, I think we're talking about the same one, the very recent one, even in eastern Washington. The cougar attacked the first bicyclist, and then the one who was on the second bicycle jumped off his bicycle and started running, which of course triggered that chase instinct that cougars have, and so he got off the first one that he had attacked and ran after the second one and finally killed the second one.
Yes, but I also understand that they at first tried to scare him off just by making themselves big. So yeah.
Well, I read articles probably 5 or 6 years ago about a lady who was taken off of a mountain bike in the trails just above San Francisco, and that made me decide right then I'm not going mountain biking in the bear country.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you there. It's
or excuse me, the mountain lion country.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you know, it's hard for I think us humans to realize that we are not the head of the food chain. In fact, we are food when it comes to cougars. So it's something that we kind of have to set our mind back about.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever seen a cougar in the wild?
I have not seen a cougar in the wild. No.
Well, do you want to?
No, but I did have an experience once where I thought I was being stalked by a cougar, but I didn't see it. But I was hiking by myself. It was February. It was near the up Hurricane Ridge, halfway up. It's a campground there, and it was right around snow level. And I was hiking along, and all of a sudden I had this overwhelming feeling that I was being stalked. And my first initial reaction was, oh, there's some guy behind the bushes. And I realized there's no guy behind the bushes, you know, in the middle of nowhere. And then I realized, oh, if there's anything behind the bushes stalking me, it's a cougar.
Do you pack heat when you're hiking?
No, I didn't. But so I thought about then too, oh boy, if I'm being stalked by a cougar, what do you do? And so I stood still and I screamed at the top of my lungs, which I never done, and I don't generally do. And it actually felt really good. So I thought, well, for good measure, I'll do it again. And after that, the feeling was gone. But I have no, I didn't see the cougar, so I don't know if I was being stalked, but it did help with the feeling.
Well, maybe that's all it took to get him to change, him or her to change his mind.
That usually is the case. That's what they tell you to do. Make yourself big and make a lot of noise.
So you spend a lot of time bicycling and hiking, gardening, and yoga. Okay, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I've done yoga now for the last 8-9 years, and it's really it's very important to me.
What are some of the benefits?
Relaxation.
Breathing and
breathing. Yeah, I think ultimately that's what it is. You learn how to breathe through your emotions and stay in the present moment.
Now, you mentioned some friends from Netherlands. I think some people may or may not know that you yourself are from the Netherlands.
Yes, born and raised.
And when did you come to the U.S.?
Well, the first time I came as an exchange student, and that was in well, now I'm going to date myself.
Well, you don't have to do that.
College.
College.
It's going to be in the voters pamphlet. So, I came here in 1979 as a high school exchange student.
Okay, and where did you come to? What area?
Barrington, Rhode Island.
Barrington, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And finished high school there?
Yes.
And I guess the American bug bit you and you decided to come back?
Yes.
And you came back and went to college here?
Yes, I went to the university. I went to Grand Canyon University in Phoenix.
Great school.
And then went on to the University of Washington.
Well, now, how did that work between Phoenix and how did you find your way to Washington, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, through mutual friends, I was introduced to, my husband, then husband, and he showed slides of Port Angeles, and I fell in love with Port Angeles. So.
Just from slides?
Yeah.
Why didn't we think of that? Well, Wendy, my wife, and I came through Port Angeles probably a half a dozen times visiting her parents who live over in Victoria, and we began to enjoy Port Angeles and decided we would go a day early and stay a night here. Then we decided to go a couple of days early and stay, and finally we decided to just move on up here because we really love it up here too.
Yes, that's what we decided. He had spent some time growing up here, and so we decided to end up here, and it took us a while, but we wanted to raise our son here.
And your son has recently graduated from college as well?
Well, he graduated a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in Bellingham and graduated from Western Washington.
Now, he's the one that taught me more about Bitcoin than anybody that I've learned Bitcoin, and I guess I was kind of afraid to ask about it because it seemed like everybody knew, and me not knowing I would feel ignorant, but he was approachable and already talking about it, and I asked some questions and learned more about the Bitcoin than blockchain than I have from anyone else. So he's a very sharp young man.
Yes, he is. He's a very sharp young man.
What's he doing now?
Well, he's got his own little company.
IT company?
IT company, computer.
And does he keep you up to date on your IT work?
When he's here, yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's always good to have one of those in the family.
Yeah, he's very good to have one of those in the family.
Well, extend to him my appreciation for his teaching me a little bit about Bitcoin. And since then I've learned that I don't think I want to play Bitcoin because it's not as foolproof as one would think. Are you going to go up to the Juan De Fuca Festival this afternoon? If you do, let me just share, the barbecue is hot and greasy.
All right. Okay, well, thank you for that tip. I'm usually in for the elephant ears. I don't know if they have them this year. If they don't, then I usually go for the chocolate-covered strawberries.
Great, great. Well, if you chocolate-covered strawberries, I don't think I've had one of those.
Yeah, well, you're missing out.
And they have them up here?
They usually do, not always.
Well, there's the barbecue place says he's been coming back for 8 years, and I said, well, I'll be back here for the next 8 years if you keep coming. Now, I'm from Memphis, or grew up in Memphis, where they really actually do the best barbecue in the world. I haven't found anything around here that is quite as good, except there is a place downtown in Port Angeles now, and I think they call it Memphis Barbecue, which is very, very close to the original, but still, it's awfully hard to find that, where you just a little crunchy, where it's just burnt just a little bit, and that adds to the taste, and then Well, don't get me, I'm going to start slobbering here if I keep talking about barbecue. What will you have for dinner tonight?
Well, I actually made some soup out of vegetables in my garden and some local beef.
Great, great. So Linda, I really appreciate you coming by to spend some time with us. And do you have anything in particular you'd like to sound off? I've asked you a bunch of questions, but I didn't give you a chance to bring anything that might be on your mind.
I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.
Well, great. And be sure and tell everybody to check in, and you can catch this interview several times in the next few weeks on www.papaonline.tv.
All right, I will do that. Thank you very much.
Really good to see you again. Take care. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
And Jordan, if you will, take us out of here. We're going to go back to a few minutes of the Discovery Trail. It is an award-winning documentary made by Chris Ingus, a Clallam County native. And we'll be right back in 5, 4, 3...
The reflection of trees and the beautiful blue-green water that's so spectacularly clear.
Thank you, Ross. Our next stop takes us into the Sol Duck River Valley to the Salmon Cascades. The challenge for the returning salmon is lining up the middle of the flow to power up to the next level. Many salmon miss that mark, but they'll continue to fight their way up the Cascades until they find success. Because October has 75% less people than it did even from the month before, there is plenty of room for viewing the returning salmon. And you just might be fortunate to see more than salmon, like this hungry bobcat that appeared at the Cascades looking for lunch. All you must do is catch one. The bobcat's frustration and impatience got the best of him, and he reached out just a little too far, headfirst into the fast water of the Cascades. He quickly swam over to the rocks and climbed out of the river. A short drive from the Cascades takes us to Sol Duck Hot Springs.
In the fall, the people like to come up here to relax in the hot mineral water, which relaxes your body and muscles, and to see the fall colors that occur up here at Sol Duck. Another attraction to the Sol Duck area is the Salmon Cascades. During the fall season at Sol Duck, why don't you all come down and enjoy the pools, the cabins, the trails, and the scenery. The fall colors show in and the salmon are running. It's a restful time to just take your time and do what you want at Sol Duck Hot Springs.
Thank you, Ron. Our final stop is the Sol Duck Trailhead. From here, it's just a little over 3/4 of a mile through lush, old-growth forest to reach the Cascading Falls.
The waterfall itself is really a very spectacular falls. It's right in the center of this deep forest. If you happen to be there in the fall after a good rain, you can expect to find a very beautiful, thunderous waterfall. The trail goes on into the high country. That's the gateway to the backcountry, is the Sol Duck Falls.
Thank you, Ross. If you're looking for a unique experience, consider planning your next trip to the peninsula during the fall so that you can enjoy all that this beautiful season has to offer.
Port Angeles, Washington. Join us as we learn how the city of Port Angeles is working for you. The gateway to Olympic National Park and tourist launching point to Victoria, Canada, and so much more. Today we are taking a closer look at the great work going on at the Port Angeles Senior Center.
Here at the Port Angeles Senior Center, we have over 200 volunteers on a regular basis who help us accomplish everything you see that happens at your Port Angeles Senior Center. Whether they are helping us in the computer center, whether they're helping us at our front desk, in our crafty corner, consignment shop, we need the help to keep our doors open. Multi-talented, multifaceted volunteers working here today, tomorrow, and there's room for you. What we're so fortunate about here at the Port Angeles Senior Center is having a wide variety of programs, activities, educational opportunities that help people in their retirement years find something of interest and give them purpose here under our roof. So we run the gamut from exercise classes that make you sweat and build that muscle mass and keep you going, to the more sedate bingo, pinochle, bridge, cribbage, billiards. We have something for everybody under our roof here at the Port Angeles Senior Center.
We had a retreat not too long ago that lasted all day, and it was absolutely delightful. It was facilitated by a gal that led us through different aspects of future projects and goals and ideas for the board and the center. If you go into the lounge for a cup of coffee by yourself, most of the time, if you feel lonely or just kind of down, there's always someone to talk to, and you never know who you're going to meet. We have everybody from retired rocket scientists to retired teachers. You learn I learn something just about every time I'm here, and I enjoy it.
You're welcome here at the Port Angeles Senior Center any day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Come on in, say hello, get to know us. You'll be amazed at what's happening under our roof.
To find out more about the many programs in your city, go to www.cityofpa.us. Thank you for joining us as we continue to explore the many ways the City of Port Angeles is working for you.
Hi there, welcome to another episode of On the Road. I'm your host, Elaine Cochran, and today we are exploring the rich history of Port Angeles, Washington, and checking out several buildings throughout the city that are on the National Historic Register of America. Did you know that Port Angeles could have been the nation's capital? That's right, on March 3rd, 1862, the federal government, under direction of President Abraham Lincoln, set aside land in Port Angeles, with the purpose being that if the South won the war and took over Washington, D.C., a new capital could be created. This fact is well documented on plaques and monuments throughout Port Angeles. This brick structure may look a little bit more like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory than a high school, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. I was fortunate enough to get to sit down with Kathy Estes, the Executive Director of the Clallam County Historical Society.
My name is Kathy Estes. I'm the Executive Director of the Clallam County Historical Society, and I have worked for the Historical Society for the past 30 years. I work with a group of men and women who are passionate about saving Clallam County's history and sharing that history. And it's just a marvelous job. We get to save what we have here and to be able to share it with people.
We have arrived at the heartbeat of Port Angeles, the downtown district. With so many busy activities taking place on the streets, it's no wonder that many people don't even realize the history that lies beneath. Back in 1914, the entire waterfront was raised about 12 feet. This process preserved an entire underground that people can still see today. So, to get a look at this lost part of the city and receive some historical insight surrounding the downtown area, we connected with local tour guide Bruce Irwin to take us into the underground.
Oldest building in the downtown area, the family shoe store, was actually built in 1890, the same year that the Port Angeles Township was established. Our underground was huge at one point in time, and unfortunately we couldn't maintain it for up until today. Yeah. But we were able to preserve that one stretch of sidewalk, and that gives us a great glimpse of what we had going on in this town at that point.
We spent the whole day traveling through Port Angeles, Washington in search of some of the oldest buildings and to explore its incredibly rich history. I hope that this journey was as rewarding for you as it was for me. Until next time, you've been watching On the Road with Elaine Cochran. I want to thank you so much for exploring Port Angeles with me, and I cannot wait for our next adventure together. I'll see you then. Bye.
Port Angeles, Washington. Join us as we learn how the city of Port Angeles is working for you. The gateway to Olympic National Park and tourist launching point to Victoria, Canada, and so much more. Today we are taking a closer look at the great work going on at the Port Angeles Senior Center.
Here at the Port Angeles Senior Center, we have over 200 volunteers on a regular basis who help us accomplish everything you see that happens at your Port Angeles Senior Center. Whether they are helping us in the computer center, whether they're helping us at our front desk, in our crafty corner, consignment shop, we need the help to keep our doors open. Multi-talented, multifaceted volunteers working here today, tomorrow, and there's room for you. What we're so fortunate about here at the Port Angeles Senior Center is having a wide variety of programs, activities, educational opportunities that help people in their retirement.
South Lincoln Street, right here in sunny downtown Port Angeles. I'm your host, Dale Wilson, for Peninsula Area Public Access. We've been here this afternoon saluting the Juan De Fuca Festival, the 25th anniversary of the Juan De Fuca Festival. There are music acts in town, there's food, there's vendors, there's t-shirts, there's beaded necklaces, there is artwork, there is everything that you can imagine a festival is supposed to be, and it's happening here at the Vern Burton Center near the City Hall grounds, and also there's a couple of stages at the Elks Club right downtown. There's been a lot of people walking back and forth past here, and we've tried to get them to come in and get on television, but they're either in a hurry to get to the next venue, or they are timid souls that freeze up when it comes to a camera, and I don't know why that is. It has never been a concern of mine. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, Peninsula Area Public Access came into being in 2015. A group of very concerned citizens sat through a presentation by Sue Buskey, who is the City of Port Angeles's consultant to franchise agreements with Wave Cable, and it come to find out that there was already a codicil in the existing franchise agreement which provided for a public access television channel that had been on the books since 2002, and here it was 2015 and nobody had taken up their offer. And so a group of about a dozen board members banded together, presented their plans to the City of Port Angeles City Council. The City Council unanimously accepted our proposal to create Peninsula Area Public Access Television, and then a bit later they unanimously selected PAPA as the organization to provide the public access programming for Clallam County and City of Port Angeles. So that's how we came into being. There's been a dedicated bunch of people. We have taken absolutely zero public monies. There was a grant that came from Wave Cable to buy some equipment. We have also received equipment from some of our sister stations from Oregon, from Knoxville, Tennessee, from down in Ventura, California. So the sister stations have been wonderful in their support. I might also say that TRTV down in Thurston County has been a mentor of ours and helped us get up and running and let us know all the things that we needed to know that we didn't know. And because of Deborah Vinsel and her staff down there, they have done a great job in helping us to get Peninsula Area Public Access up and running. And next month will be 2 years that we have actually been broadcasting from right here at 215 South Lincoln Street in the old fire hall building. The city and the most recent city council that's come in has extended our lease on the old fire hall and has also provided us the use of the bottom floor. For the first year we were only on the first floor. We outgrew that very quickly, and we are now developing our media center here on the first floor. The media center will be complete with video booths where you can actually make productions. It'll be a sound stage where you can do your special effects. We hope to have a low power radio station that will cover most of downtown area to give people a little bit of experience in radio broadcast. We also have a small theater inside to where people can watch either the completed documentaries that they've worked on or be able to watch works in progress and have their friends come in. It'll seat about 25 or 30 people, and they can come in and share their works in progress and get feedback, and then go right back to the editing booth and be able to work on their project again. One of the most exciting parts of this future, very soon development, is we will have a media center where students that are working in the various media programs, as you may know, Stevens Middle School has a media program, the Port Angeles High School has a media program, and those classes last only 55 minutes, and a lot of times students don't have time to get all the work done that they'd like to on their project, so they can download what they're working on a thumb drive, bring it down here to the Peninsula Area Public Access Media Center, plug it into one of our editing bays, and go right on about their work and be able to work on it as long as they want to. So we hope that this will be a huge shot in the arm for the creative artists that want to work in media, and this will certainly complement the excellent musical programs that Port Angeles High School has, and we would really love to see this area become a media center in much the same way it is known for its musical programs here. As you may know, Papa producers have been nominated for 1 Emmy Award in our very first year of broadcast, and this year we just found out we have been nominated for 2 Emmy Awards. Now, nomination is one thing and winning is another, but hey, just getting the nod to be recognized as a high quality producer of video content is a great hurdle, and if we do bring home the award this year, it'll be due to the tremendous work by the students, by Patrick McGinnis, who teaches the media program up at the high school, and all of the instructors that have worked to help bring this media program to where it is now, and the ones that are going to help us take it over the top as we continue to grow in the Peninsula Area Public Access Media Center. Having said all that, we still need help. We need we need volunteers, we need sponsors, we need members. Membership is only $50 a year, and with membership you get an opportunity to check out any of our portable equipment, from the tripod to the cameras to the microphones to anything that you need to go out and create your own media project, and bring it in, do your editing, and hand it to us, and we will get it on the air. And when we say on the air, that goes out to not only the 16,000 homes in Clallam County that have wave cable, but also at Peninsula Area, at papaonline.tv. It goes out around the world to, if you have friends or family living elsewhere, then you can certainly invite them to tune in to papaonline.tv. Go to programming, and all of our programming is archived there, including today's episode of It's Your Turn. As you may know, I also host a what is usually an in-studio type interview show called Now You Know, where we try to get in all of the newsmakers and community shakers and elicit more information and what we like to say, news you can use. So there are lots of, we've already enjoyed a lot of growth here at Papa, and we have much more plans in effect. All we're lacking is your support, your volunteer hours, and your sponsorships. I'd like to say that every nonprofit in the local community is heartily invited to come down and make your case before the public, make a public service announcements, which we can play over and over and over, and try to bring more important community awareness to your particular nonprofit. And that's anything from the Red Cross, the United Way, the animal shelters, the Pet Posse, the Olympic Medical Center. Any nonprofit gets free access to the sound waves, to the airwaves, and we'll be glad to put together a 30-minute or 60-second public service announcement to promote your particular nonprofit. Just another one of the many ways Papa attempts to serve the community and make Clallam County, Port Angeles, more attractive not only to our residents, but to our potential residents who may be watching from afar, or to our visitors who come in, turn on the television channel in their hotel rooms, and pick up Papa, recognize the many wonderful things going on, such as this weekend's Juan De Fuca Festival, and Joyce Days, and the Crab Fest, and all of the wonderful things that go on here in sunny downtown Port Angeles. So Having said that, I invite you to tune in next time, tune in all the time. Papa is on broadcasting 24/7, and no matter what time you wake up, you can go over to your computer, go over to your television, and there'll be a friendly face from Papa there to help make more sense out of your day. So, your host, Dale Wilson, for Peninsula Area Public Access. I'm going to sign off now in 5, 4, 3, 2. This is how I let Jordan know to shut me off. Thank you.
Port Angeles, Washington. Join us as we learn how the city of Port Angeles is working for you. The gateway to Olympic National Park and tourist launching point to Victoria, Canada, and so much more. Today we are taking a closer look at the Facade and Sign Improvement Grant Program.
The City of Port Angeles is working for you through its Facade and Sign Grant Improvement Program. So the Facade and Sign Grant Improvement Program is a CDBG, or Community Development Block Grant Program, that allows for local businesses to apply for a 50% match grant on either the facade of their building or a sign as well.
Okay, hi, I'm Todd Clayton. We'd just like to express our gratitude to the city for their facade program. As you can see, it's turned out amazing. We had a building with a failing foundation that we got fixed. There were small windows on the front. It was dark on the inside from it. You couldn't really see our displays. We had the windows size increased and expanded, lets light in the store. It makes us more inviting. And then on the upper half of the building, we replaced the old windows that were not functional, put in new ones, and put in gutters and drains, repainted. It just turned out amazing and couldn't be happier. And the process was so easy with the city.
My name is Matt Bailey, and in 2002 purchased this building on Lincoln Street. I was in need of a lot of repair. My wife and I were the first to go through the city facade grant program. The city was wonderful to work with. It was a pioneering effort at the time. It gave us the opportunity to fix dilapidated issues here on the front of the building, including tearing down an old damaged awning that we rewrapped new metal. We were able to do new windows, new stucco on the building. We ground down the old brickwork and retipped all the mortar, and we're able to paint the building. So the results have been fantastic, and we're excited that it's continuing on, and it's a great program for the city to help revitalize the downtown area and all the city.
To find out more about the many programs in your city, go to www.cityofpa.us. Thank you for joining us as we continue to explore the many ways the city of Port Angeles is working for you.
Hi there, I'm Elaine Cochran with Papa TV in Port Angeles, Washington, and welcome to our new series On the Road, where we'll be exploring unique locations across the North Olympic Peninsula. Today, we have ventured out to the new Dungeness Light Station at the end of the Dungeness Spit, which is one of the world's longest natural sand spits. The spit and the lighthouse are both a part of the 775-acre Dungeness National Wildlife Refuge. So we invite you to join us as we explore the oldest functioning lighthouse on the Strait of Juan De Fuca, along with the new Dungeness Light Station Association. Stick around to find out how you can spend a week as a lighthouse keeper, maintaining the property and conducting tours, as well as enjoying the serenity, wildlife, and natural beauty of the Dungeness Spit and Refuge, all of which are just a short trip from Sequim, Washington on the North Olympic Peninsula.
In other locations around the United States, when the Coast Guard personnel left, vandalism occurred. This small group of local people decided that they wanted to prevent that from happening. So they coordinated with the Coast Guard and they started the New Dungeness Light Station Association.
The New Dungeness Light Station Association, an independent nonprofit organization, assumed responsibility for the lighthouse in late 1994 under a license with the U.S. Coast Guard. The light station is continuously staffed 24 hours a day by association members who serve on a weekly basis as volunteer keepers at their own expense. These volunteers reside right here in the restored 1904 Keeper's House. The lighthouse is operated, maintained, and improved effectively through membership dues, keeper's fees, and individual contributions at no cost to taxpayers.
To be a keeper out at the New Dungeness Lighthouse, first you need to be a member of the association. As a keeper, you stay out at the lighthouse for 1 week at a time. Sometimes it's